My name was Ahmed. I was a lawyer, a voice of authority in a court that demanded unwavering loyalty to the law of the land. In the heart of Saudi Arabia, where shadows whispered and tradition reigned supreme, I wore my title as a badge of honor, but beneath the facade, a gnawing emptiness consumed me. I was respected, yet I felt unseen, disciplined, yet deeply trapped. Spirituality felt like a cage, one built with unyielding bricks of unwavering faith and fear. Every prayer echoed with a haunting silence, and in those moments, doubt seeped in like a cold wind. The certainties I clung to began to unravel. I dreamed of light and freedom, visions that haunted my sleep and stirred something long dormant within me. Then came that fateful day in court. I collapsed into darkness, and in that void, I found a sanctuary far beyond this world, a celestial tribunal where Jesus called me by name. He didn't just speak, he shattered my reality. In that sacred space, the hidden battles of my heart were laid bare, revealing the truth that I had been blind to for so long. The very systems I served, the beliefs I upheld, they were mere tools in a greater agenda, cloaked in deceit. In those moments of profound awareness, I understood that I had not been fighting for a spiritual truth, but rather against it. I experienced a revelation that many fear to confront. The path to true freedom begins when we question what binds us. As I awakened to this truth, the world I returned to was unforgiving. My family condemned me, and my community shunned me. Guilt wrapped around my heart like a heavy chain, yet an undeniable urge compelled me to seek the light that had touched my soul. Hidden beneath layers of fear, there lies a burning desire for connection, for purpose. I began my clandestine journey, reading the Bible, seeking out others who had traveled this path. Each revelation filled the void, igniting a spark of hope and liberation. Now, I stand at a crossroads. The urgency to share my story weighs upon me like a mantle. I am compelled to awaken others trapped in cycles of fear and tradition. This testimony is just the beginning, a call to those wandering in darkness. Are you ready to join me on this journey toward true freedom? Before we dive deeper into this transformative experience, I want to know, where are you watching from right now? And what time is it in your part of the world? Your place in this narrative matters. And if you feel the call of truth within you, I urge you, subscribe to Truth from Beyond. Your journey toward revelation starts here, and what's coming next will challenge your perception of everything you thought you knew. The courtroom was a stark embodiment of power and control, its atmosphere thick with an unyielding reverence for authority. As I sat there as a judge, I could feel the weight of expectation pressing down on me from all sides. In Saudi Arabia, adherence to Islamic law was paramount, but beneath that layer of obedience lay pervasive fear. The citizens lived under constant surveillance, their every movement watched, their thoughts heavily monitored. I had spent years reinforcing these laws, convinced that they upheld the moral fabric of our society. Yet as the day wore on, I began to sense a growing discontent within my own heart, a conflict that would soon spiral into a life-altering revelation. One day, while deliberating over a case that felt trivial compared to the weighty nature of our laws, I succumbed to fatigue. In that moment, between consciousness and sleep, I was thrust into darkness, an inexplicable void where the confines of my reality fell away. It was there that I encountered him, Jesus. His light splashed across the darkness, illuminating the truth in ways I had never imagined possible. As he stood before me, the essence of compassion radiated from him, cutting through the chains of authority and tradition that had bound my spirit. I was overwhelmed by a sense of peace I had thought unattainable, and in that sacred space, a deeper understanding began to unfold. Jesus spoke to me, revealing truths that shook the very foundations of my beliefs. He shared how the elite manipulated power, how the hidden agenda of societal leaders twisted faith into a tool for control rather than liberation. I witnessed scenes of suffering and division, glimpses of a world torn apart by a lack of genuine understanding of love and compassion. The stark contrast between my previous life and the spiritual war unfolding became painfully clear. Here, in this sacred encounter, I learned that salvation lay not in blind obedience, but in awakening to a higher calling, the calling of love, truth, and freedom. As I returned to consciousness, the world around me felt drastically altered. The courtroom, once a symbol of power, now felt like a cage. I could no longer ignore the urgent pull in my spirit that urged me to question everything I had accepted without hesitation. The trials I held, the judgments I made, were no longer merely about enforcing law. They were about freeing souls from the deceptions that had long entrapped them. How many more women and men were out there, living in fear under the guise of reverence? The reality of my revelation pressed against my heart like a full-blooming flower demanding attention, leaving me no choice but to confront the deeper questions that shadowed my authority. Now filled with both conviction and apprehension, I realized the risk of confronting the system I had dedicated my life to. I was now branded a heretic in an environment that demanded unwavering loyalty. Would I truly have the courage to speak out against the very laws I had upheld? The path ahead seemed fraught with peril. The fear of losing not just my position, but my identity entirely gnawed at me. Yet every ounce of fear was eclipsed by the urgency of the revelation I had received. I understood that God's vision of humanity was not one of control, but a profound connection among all souls, free from the shackles of deception. As I began to explore my new beliefs, I found solace in quiet gatherings with others who had journeyed through their trials. These were souls who had faced the oppressive grip of societal expectations and emerged with a burning desire for truth. Together, we began to discuss how to navigate the spiritual war we found ourselves in, seeking to awaken others still trapped in the shadows. The urgency of our mission pulsed through us. Each story shared lit a fire in our spirits, linking us in a bond far stronger than any law could impose. Our spirits soared in unity, fueled by the shared dream of a community that embraced love, truth, and understanding, daring to challenge the hidden agendas that had long governed us. And so, fueled by the transformational power of Jesus' revelation, we prepared ourselves for the battle ahead, committed to awakening the world one heart at a time. As a 35-year-old Muslim lawyer, I had earned respect within my community, recognized for my legal prowess and honesty. Day after day, I walked into the courtroom with confidence, defending clients and navigating the complexities of our legal system. To the outside world, I was the embodiment of success, yet inside, a growing emptiness gnawed at me, a hollow feeling that crept in slowly, almost imperceptibly. I brushed it off, convincing myself that it was simply the weight of responsibility. But deep down, I was struggling to reconcile my faith with a longing for something more profound, something that my routines and duties could not satisfy. Over the years, I'd built a life rooted in tradition and structured beliefs. My family expected me to uphold the values I had inherited, and I often felt the pressure to conform. But there was a persistent tension within me, a whisper that sought to awaken questions I had learned to silence. Was my purpose merely to follow a set path defined by societal norms? Or was there a deeper calling that awaited me beyond the confines of the life I had built? I couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing, yet fear held me back from challenging the very foundations of my faith. One day, all of that changed dramatically. While working late into the night, fatigue finally overtook me, and I drifted into a deep sleep at my desk. In that state between consciousness and oblivion, I plunged into an experience that would alter everything I thought I knew. I found myself in a dark, expansive space, void of any familiar landmarks. Fear threatened to consume me, but then, through the shadows, light emerged, a brilliant, warm light that filled the wilderness of my despair. As it drew near, I recognized the figure standing before me. It was Jesus. He approached me with kindness and understanding, radiating an energy that transcended the immediate chaos of my surroundings. In that moment, I felt seen in a way I had never experienced before. Jesus reached out, and as he did, I was flooded with a sense of deep peace and urgency. "My child," he said, "you are caught in a spiritual war, a battle not just within your heart, but across the world." With each word, a profound revelation unfolded before me, unveiling the layers of deception I had unknowingly accepted. As he spoke, I was shown the many faces of manipulation that plagued our society, the hidden agenda of the elite as they controlled narratives and perpetuated fear. I witnessed the division wrought by misinformation, the way leaders silenced dissent while masquerading as protectors of faith and morality. It was a terrifying sight, and yet within that fear, a glimmer of truth emerged. The spiritual war we faced wasn't merely a political struggle. It was a clash for our souls, a fight against the forces that sought to keep us shrouded in darkness. The weight of this understanding pressed upon me, igniting a fire in my spirit to rise and confront the status quo. When I awoke from that experience, everything felt irrevocably different. As I sat in my office, my heart raced, overwhelmed with the urgency of what I had witnessed. I could no longer continue living a life that felt disingenuous. I began to grapple with the consequences of my revelations, the fear of losing my standing in the community, the risk of being branded a heretic. Yet the possibility of awakening, to realize and share the truth, dared me to challenge everything I once knew. Would I become a voice for the voiceless? Or would I slip back into the complacency that had defined my life? The questions swirled in my mind as I pondered my next steps. I felt an insatiable need to connect with others, to explore the truths we had long overlooked. If I dared step outside the confines of my past, perhaps I could set an example for those who were also yearning for more. I envisioned gatherings filled with conversations stretching beyond fear, challenging the deception that had guided our thoughts for so long. The spiritual war was vast, and I understood that silence would not be my ally. It was time to awaken, not just myself, but my community as well. I knew I had to act, and as I contemplated what lay ahead, I felt the undeniable urge pushing me into the light. As I sat in prayer, a profound emptiness began to seep into my heart, a nagging sensation that something was fundamentally missing. For years, I had adhered to the doctrines of my faith with unwavering dedication. Yet in those moments of silence, the weight of my prayers felt like an echo bouncing off walls that felt increasingly distant. The routine I once cherished became a cycle of thoughts that led nowhere, as if I was merely fulfilling an obligation rather than engaging in a meaningful dialogue with the divine. Each prayer began to feel hollow, leaving me questioning the very tenets I had accepted as my truth. Night after night, I found myself losing sleep as I wrestled with these growing doubts. It wasn't just a fleeting moment of uncertainty. It was an awakening of sorts, grappling with concepts and beliefs that had been etched into my identity. My dreams increasingly shifted from mundane fragments of daily life to vivid landscapes filled with light and freedom. In these dreams, I sensed a calling, an invitation beckoning me to step outside the confines of my established beliefs. The visions felt so real, so vibrant, that upon waking, I was left with a sense of longing I couldn't quite articulate. One particular night, while submerged in a deep slumber, I encountered an extraordinary vision that shattered the remnants of my complacency. I found myself wandering through an expansive and blinding light, and there stood Jesus, radiant and compassionate. His presence was both overwhelming and soothing, cutting through the fog of doubt that clouded my mind. As he looked into my eyes, I felt a profound understanding. "You are seeking more than what you've been taught," he said softly. And in that moment, I knew he was revealing the deeper truths hidden beneath the surface of my faith. With each word that flowed from him, layers of deception began to peel away, exposing the hidden agenda of those who had sought to control the narrative of our beliefs. Jesus spoke of the spiritual war that raged not only within my soul but throughout the world, a battle against the forces that manipulated faith to maintain power and divide humanity. I was shown the surging tides of societal unrest, fueled by fear and ignorance, an unending cycle perpetuated by elite interests. The urgency of his message resonated within me, igniting a spark of defiance against the deception that had kept my spirit shackled for so long. When I returned to consciousness, the transformation was palpable. Everything I thought I knew felt irrevocably altered. No longer could I indulge in the docile acceptance of my surroundings. My heart yearned for understanding and freedom. The dreams of light and hope tugged at my consciousness, beckoning me to explore what lay beyond the walls I had built around myself. I struggled to reconcile my newfound revelations with the expectations of those I loved. I felt both liberated and terrified, caught in a tumultuous sea between adherence to tradition and the pursuit of authentic truth. The awakening had begun, and with it came a call to action, to challenge my past while seeking the path that would lead me toward an unfettered connection with the divine. The courtroom was filled with tension that morning, the air thick with the weight of unspoken fears and stringent expectations. As a judge in Saudi Arabia, my life revolved around the interpretations of Islamic law, where authority held a powerful grip over the hearts and minds of the people. I had become accustomed to the gravity of my role, ensuring justice was served while navigating the restrictive norms of our society. Yet that day, as the proceedings unfolded, I felt an unsettling shift within myself, feeling I could no longer ignore. It was a moment that would forever change the course of my life. Mid-hearing, the room began to blur around me. I felt a rush of dizziness that brought me to my knees. Suddenly, darkness enveloped me, and I slipped into unconsciousness. It was in that void that I found myself standing in a surreal realm, a spiritual tribunal with blinding light surrounding me. In that moment, I realized I was no longer in the courtroom. I was in the presence of Jesus. His gaze pierced through the shadows, enveloping me in love and understanding. Ahmed, he called my name, and the sound resonated deep within me, awakening something dormant. In this spiritual court, Jesus revealed to me the truths I had long overlooked. He showed me the spiritual war that played out around us, a battle for the souls of humanity, my soul included. I was struck by the hidden agenda of the elites, their control weaving a tapestry of deception that manipulated our beliefs and actions. I saw visions of conflict ignited by misinformation, the division that simmered just below the surface of our society, fueled by fear. Powerful leaders perpetuated cycles of suffering, all while cloaked in the guise of righteousness. The truth of their deceit became undeniable, each revelation chipping away at the illusions I had accepted as reality. As he spoke, my heart raced with both fear and exhilaration. Jesus unveiled the layers of religious dogma that had constrained my spirit, revealing the freedom that lay beyond traditional boundaries. I had spent years upholding laws that seemed righteous, yet often stifled compassion and understanding. In my desire to maintain authority and respect, I had lost sight of the core message of love and unity that underpinned all spiritual teachings. This revelation struck me profoundly. It wasn't just about individual awakening, but also a collective call to challenge a status quo that had kept many in chains. Suddenly, I was swept back to consciousness, surrounded once more by the sterile walls of the courtroom. The proceedings had continued, but my perspective had shifted entirely. I felt myriad emotions flooding over me: confusion, fear, and an overwhelming drive to act. I could no longer hide behind the mask of duty. The truth I had witnessed demanded to be shared. Yet, I was acutely aware of the risks that lay ahead. How could I confront the very traditions and structures that had defined my existence without facing backlash from my community? The fear of being labeled a heretic bore down on me, yet the pull toward awakening became more potent with each heartbeat. Determined to explore this new path, I sought connections beyond the courtroom, reaching out to those who might understand the depths of my experience. I began to engage with individuals who had challenged the established narratives, sharing those glimpses of truth I had encountered. Each conversation ignited a spark of hope within me, an affirmation that perhaps awakening was not just a personal journey, but a larger movement toward truth and liberation. The spiritual war that had been revealed to me became the guiding force in my life. Despite the daunting shadow of fear looming above, I felt an undeniable urgency pushing me to stand for something greater, to embark on a courageous mission where love and truth could triumph over the deception that had bound so many souls. When I awoke from that life-altering experience, reality felt heavier than ever before. The courtroom that had once been a place of authority for me now seemed like a cage, my soul aching to break free. As I sat there, the scornful looks from my family and community weighed heavily on my heart. They saw me as a traitor to my faith, someone who had wrestled with doubt and was now lost in a sea of confusion. I could hear the whispers, heretic, betrayer. Each word cut deep, leaving me grappling with an overwhelming sense of guilt. I had ventured into unknown territory, and now, the burden of my revelations felt impossibly heavy. Inside, I was battling a storm of emotions. On one hand, I felt the guilt of having questioned the very beliefs I had upheld my entire life. On the other, there was a relentless drive to uncover the truth. A truth I had glimpsed during my encounter with Jesus. His words echoed in my mind, illuminating hidden paths that revealed the spiritual war being waged around us. The manipulations of the elite became painfully clear, revealing how power structures maintained control through fear and deception. I was torn between my old life and the awakening that was beckoning me forward, urging me to explore the depths of matters I had previously accepted without question. In private moments, when no one was watching, I found myself praying more earnestly than ever. I wasn't merely going through the motions. My prayers had become a mix of desperation and hope. Desperate for understanding, I reached out to the divine in a way I hadn't before. I wanted clarity, a sign to guide me through the tension that threatened to break my spirit. Each breath I took felt like a plea for wisdom, knowing that the revelations I'd experienced revealed a much larger picture of humanity's plight. The urgency of my situation bore down on me. I couldn't sit idle while the world was led astray by hidden agendas. I began to seek connections beyond the constraints of my community, looking for individuals who had experienced similar journeys. Discovered online forums where people shared their stories of awakening, and I was captivated. Each testimony ignited hope within me, solidifying my resolve to move away from the deception that had long held dominion over my spirit. We shared stories of oppression, of questioning societal norms that divided us rather than uniting us. And as I connected with others in this struggle, I began to understand the shared burden we all carried, the desire for truth, the longing for a greater purpose. The more I explored these connections, the more I sensed the power of collective awakening. My heart raced at the thought of forming a group that could challenge the status quo, a movement driven by love, understanding, and kindness. Together, we could confront the spiritual war that raged within and around us. I could already feel the first stirrings of change within my own heart, a divine call to action. It wasn't easy to think about stepping into the unknown, ready to challenge my family's beliefs and the traditions I had been raised with. But the thought of remaining silent felt like a betrayal to the truths I had uncovered. The stakes were high, yet the pull of truth and spiritual fulfillment was stronger than the fear that had once imprisoned me. In the stillness of the night, I found myself drawn to the Bible I had hidden away in my home. It felt like a rebellion against everything I had been taught to uphold, yet my curiosity was overwhelming. With every page I turned, I felt an awakening stirring within me, a sense of connection to something greater than the confines of my upbringing. As the words of Jesus illuminated my dark thoughts, I began to question the very foundations that had anchored my life. The spiritual war within me intensified. Each verse was both a challenge and an invitation to rethink everything I had once accepted as truth. Seeking solace and understanding, I reached out to support groups for ex-Muslims online. These gatherings became a lifeline, a safe haven where I could express my doubts without the fear of persecution. The friendships I forged there became deeply meaningful as we shared our struggles and triumphs. For the first time, I experienced a sense of peace and belonging that had been absent from my life for far too long. The camaraderie among us was palpable, a union of souls seeking liberation from the burdens of tradition and expected obedience. We spoke candidly about our experiences, bridging the gaps between our cultural past and the spiritual awakenings we were embarking upon. As I opened up to these newfound friends, the echoes of our shared revelations filled the air. We talked about the hidden agendas we had uncovered, how the elite held power over populations, manipulating societal beliefs to serve their interests. I learned that this was not merely a personal journey. It was part of a larger conversation about truth versus deception, about awakening in a world rife with misinformation. The struggles we faced were not just religious. They were deeply entwined with political and social dynamics, revealing the spiritual war that was being waged around us and within us. Each meeting intensified my resolve to pursue the truth, yet I couldn't shake the weight of guilt that sometimes threatened to pull me back. How could I break the silence surrounding me? Would I truly have the courage to confront the life I had built? These questions haunted me, yet I remained determined, as Jesus had once shown me. In my encounter, the deception that plagued our lives could only be dismantled by raising our voices and sharing our experiences. There was a profound need for awakening, not just within myself, but among those who were still trapped in darkness. As I deepened my understanding of this spiritual battle, I found strength in my connections, bonding over our shared purpose. We began to form plans for outreach, ways to help others navigate their own spiritual struggles. Each story we shared served as a reminder that we were not alone in this fight. We discussed how to challenge the narratives imposed upon us, creating safe spaces where others could also explore their own truths. The magnitude of our mission filled the air with electricity. Awakened and informed, we were ready to confront the darkness, both within and outside ourselves, and lead others toward the light, spreading the message of love, healing, and truth. After my transformative experience, I couldn't return to my previous life without acknowledging the mission that had become so clear. The echoes of my encounter with Jesus still resonated within me, igniting a fire that demanded to be shared. I felt a calling that was stronger than any fear of judgment from my family or community, a calling to awaken others to the spiritual truths I had uncovered amid the shadows of deception. Each day, I grappled with how I would tell my story, how to bridge the vast chasm between my past beliefs and the revelations I had received. I understood that my journey was not just about my personal awakening, but a part of a larger narrative, one that encompassed all of humanity. There was a spiritual war raging beyond our understanding, fueled by the hidden agendas of the elite who thrived on division and fear. They manipulated systems, technologies, and even narratives that dictated our lives, often leading us to quell our questions and accept the status quo. I realized that to remain silent would be to collude with this deception, and that thought weighed heavily on my conscience. I was determined to break that silence. In the days that followed, I began to organize gatherings, small, intimate meetings, where those who felt lost or questioning could come together. I wanted to create a safe space for honest discussions about faith, spirituality, and the truths we had once overlooked. Word of mouth spread quickly, and soon, others began to share their own stories of awakening. Each account felt like a piece of a larger, puzzle, revealing a tapestry woven with longing and frustration as we explored the depths of our souls. Together, we began confronting the societal structures that had long held us captive, questioning the very beliefs that had shaped our identities. As more voices joined our circle, the atmosphere shifted, charged with a collective desire for change. We spoke passionately about the truths we had uncovered, the revelations that exposed the hidden agendas designed to manipulate our thoughts and our actions. The more we shared, the clearer it became that we were not just individuals on a journey, but part of an awakening movement that could resonate throughout our community and beyond. Within this environment of support and encouragement, I felt a transformation unfolding within myself. Guilt and fear began to melt away, replaced by a sense of purpose and clarity. The urgency of our mission pulsed within me, a reminder that the spiritual war was ongoing and deeper than we could fully grasp. The risks of speaking out loomed large, but I had witnessed the power of truth, the very revelation that had freed my spirit, allowing me to confront the deceptive narratives that had long dictated our lives. I felt a growing determination to shine a light in the darkness, to help others awaken to the love and compassion that Jesus had offered. With the support of my newfound friends, I resolved to share my story widely, to lead others toward the path of enlightenment, and to inspire them to join the fight against the forces that sought to keep us in bondage. The journey ahead promised to be challenging, yet the call to action was louder than ever. With newfound courage surging within me, I made the decision to leave my hometown behind. Each step away from familiarity felt like an act of defiance against the life I had known, a life that had been shaped by traditions and expectations that no longer resonated with my spirit. I adopted a new name, a symbol of my rebirth. And as I walked away, I felt the weight of old identities fall away. My journey wasn't merely a personal escape. It was the beginning of a mission to reach those who felt trapped in belief systems that hindered their freedom to fully embrace their true selves. The road ahead was uncertain, but with every mile, I found strength in my determination to share the revelations I had received. Jesus had shown me the truth. His words had pierced through the veil of deception that had governed my life for so long. I felt a profound calling to evangelize, to help others break free from the spiritual shackles that bound them. Each story I shared became a thread in a larger tapestry, connecting me to those who were also awakened or yearning for more. I envisioned gatherings where honest discussions about faith, love, and liberation could flourish, an opportunity for souls to awaken to the potential that lay dormant within them. My journey led me to various communities, each with its own struggles and stories. I met individuals who had faced similar journeys, drawn together by a shared search for truth and meaning. Day after day, we bonded over our experiences, helping one another navigate the complexities of faith in a world rife with deceit. I spoke passionately about the spiritual war we were all part of, the battle against the elite forces that sought to manipulate our beliefs and keep us divided. Each encounter filled me with hope, and I started to see the impact our shared awakening could have. Together, we sparked conversations that challenged the complacency surrounding us, igniting a collective desire for freedom. However, despite the fulfillment I found in my new life, there was an ache in my heart, a longing for reconciliation with my family. The fear of their judgment still lingered, a shadow that haunted me as I navigated my new identity. I often replayed memories of our time together, the laughter and love intertwined with unspoken tensions. The thought of them branding me a heretic still stung, yet I held on to the hope that one day they would understand the truths I had discovered. I prayed for peace, not only for myself, but for my family, wishing they could see beyond the deception that had clouded their understanding. Years passed, and I emerged as a local leader in my new community, dedicated to transforming lives through the testimony of my experiences. I held workshops, taught classes, and shared my journey freely, each story serving as a beacon of hope for those who felt lost. My heart swelled with purpose as I watched others awaken to the truths I had once sought for myself. Yet I never forgot my family, still holding on to the hope of reconciliation that resided within me. I knew that my mission was more than a personal endeavor. It was a call to awaken those trapped in their own spiritual battles. With each passing day, I felt the urgency of this mission tighten around me, pushing me toward that transformative conversation I longed to have. The path was filled with uncertainty, but armed with the truth and revelations, I prepared to step into the light, ready to confront whatever awaited me on the other side. Now that you've walked with me through this journey of awakening, I find myself reflecting on a fundamental question. How many of you feel the same stirring in your heart? Are you grappling with the truths that challenge your beliefs and the chains of tradition that bind you? As I share my story of transformation, I urge you to consider your own, because this is not just about me, it's about all of us. We are caught in a spiritual war, waged in the shadows and illuminated by the light of truth. You are not just a passive observer. You are an integral part of this grand narrative. Everything I once held significant, my titles, my position, my unchecked authority, has been put into perspective. I realize now that I had been a pawn in a game much larger than myself, and many are left unaware too. As we navigate this world, filled with fear and division, it's crucial to wake up, to question the narratives we've been fed, and to embrace the freedom that comes from seeking the truth. I want to hear from you. Have you felt that same tug? Have you questioned everything you thought you knew? Let's keep this conversation alive in the comments. Your insights are vital, and together we can illuminate the path for others still trapped in dark corners. If this resonance has stirred something profound within you, don't leave without subscribing to Truth from Beyond and hitting that notification bell. By doing so, you're not just joining a channel, you're participating in a movement, a community seeking liberation from the chains of deception. Your support is instrumental as we gather strength to confront the very forces working to suppress our truth. The urgency of our mission is at stake. And trust me, what I have lined up next can further illuminate this journey for you. In the next video, we'll explore another powerful testimony, one that sheds light on the hidden agendas within our spiritual communities. Together, we'll delve deeper into the truths that challenge us and inspire us to rise against the prevailing darkness. I'm Ahmed, and I am grateful for your presence here today. Remember, the truth is waiting for those ready to embrace it. Keep searching and stay illuminated. We can't afford to look away.